Let me say about the teams first. None of them on the list. Washington. Folks, Washington was a playoff team last year. I understand you can say, oh, it's the NFC least. Fair enough, but you had Chase Young. You had those guys on that defense. Alex Smith is doing what he does at the quarterback position. They had the running game. They have Terry McLaurin. You have a receiver. You're also extending talks with your starting right guard, the offensive line, folks. 394 times since Russell Wilson's been in the NFL. That's how many times he's been sacked. Nobody since Russell Wilson entering the NFL has been sacked so many times. You can say, oh my gosh, he's being a diva. If you want a great example of not just a quarterback, screw that. No, as a man, on and off the field, Russell Wilson is the best example we can have in the NFL. This is a guy that's a man of God, does what he does. You can say, oh, he's been a diva. You can say diva, all these things. He's been a control freak. In my opinion, he is deserved to a certain extent, not final say, but deserves some say of, hey, this is what I think we should do. This is what I think we could do. I do believe Russell Wilson deserves some input. Think about what Russell Wilson has been through. Also, the GM of the Seattle Seahawks, I believe I say is it John Schneider? I may be completely butchering his name.
John Schneider is correct.
He should be fired. Why is he still there? Like, if we're being honest, because to a certain extent, you can go back to the ownership. Then it's the ownership, then it goes to the GM. What has John Schneider done since the Legion of Boom has been broken up? You can continue talking about the run-heavy offense and all these different types of things. John Schneider needs to be fired because the type of decisions you make as a GM sets the Seattle Seahawks doom. It's setting them up for failure here. As you see how Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, they start off great in the beginning of the year. Russell Wilson MVP, still a phenomenal elite quarterback. Then you see towards the middle of the season and go on, you see the struggling of the offensive line. The pass or the run heavy offense starts to kind of take a toll on you completely. I don't believe he'll be traded, but if he does, I'm gonna have to say Washington. They have that defense. Again, Edward, I agree. Why isn't anybody talking about this? John Schneider, the GM, needs to be fired tomorrow. Washington has the defense. You have Terry McLaurin. You have some decent tight ends. You have the running game. You're addressing the offensive line. You have, I believe, $65+ million in cap space. So you address the offensive line. You get Russell. Again, it's hypothetical. I don't believe he'll be traded, but I believe sooner or later Russell Wilson will sit out. But Washington, I believe, is the best fit. You have the defense. The offensive line is improving. You have Ron Rivera as head coach. I understand towards the end of Carolina, totally different story. But I'm a fan of Ron Rivera. His story, the warrior mentality that he has. He beat cancer, and he was coaching during the 2020 NFL season when they were working with coronavirus. When do we play this game? How do we practice? When can we not practice? All these different things. Washington, I believe, will be the perfect fit if he were to be traded. But I think it's just like the soap opera scripts on TV shows. It's going nowhere. I think this is just a bunch of drama. I think they'll cave in. Because at some point, as much as I would love Russell Wilson to be traded, the way his contract is set up, there's too much money. What even team that would have the cap? Yes, they would have the cap, but then they still have to address the other players too. So Russell Wilson and any team that wants to trade for him, I without a doubt agree. But the cap hit, not because of what Russell can't do, it is the amount of money his contract is going to do against the cap, especially this year when the cap is under $190 million for all NFL teams due to little to no revenue. I may have the number wrong, so about $180 million, give or take. So a lot of teams have less money. So Washington at this bet would be the favorite because you look at the Saints, which would be interesting. Drew Brees is taking the veteran league minimum as he's most likely going to retire. So got Michael Thomas's contract, Alvin Kamara. What do you do on the defensive side of the ball? Cameron Jordan's getting older. There's just so many different questions. I say Washington again. Cap hit. The drama to me literally means nothing, and I know it's gonna be. Oh my gosh, this is what I would do. This is a thing. What happened to Pete Carroll at USC? He lost against UT, buddy. That guy had to throw shade at him a little bit. Again, great coach, great man. But I'm saying we saw this towards the end of his career at USC, where they had a lot of success, but towards the end, you see these mistakes again and again and again. You don't get a Russell Wilson that often in the NFL. Remember, here's a third-round pick. Remember, Matt Flynn was competing for him for the starting job. They've been to the playoffs again and again. But again, my final thought on this, I give this drama little to nothing because it's just another story. I believe they will give him some input here. But the question is, if they don't fire the GM, could there be more to this in the future than what we realize? And Ishmael